How's it going, guys? This is Alex from Mako. We're here in Chicago on the Breathe tour right now, and I want to talk to you guys about my journey and about the gear that I'm using. I started as a DJ in about 2012 after my good friend Logan took me to Electric Daisy Carnival. I come from classical music, which is just purely exists in the concert hall. I played the French horn, and suffice to say there's a different sonic relationship and emotional relationship with the audience when you're in a concert hall. So I went to the fairgrounds at EDC and was just blown away. I mean, purely like the sound, the beauty of it, the energy, obviously coupled with the lights and all the just craziness of that thing. It got me hooked really fast. So I started just diving into Logic, diving into electronic production, and just figuring out what sound is, what are my opinions on sound, and how can they change going from the orchestra into electronic field. There's a lot of similarities, and there's a lot of things that are just brand new that I'm still trying to build and get better at. So the first couple of years of Mako, we were DJing, and it was a really nice time to be a DJ. This is post, vinyls and all that stuff, so it was about loading up your flash drive and just plugging into a CDJ and mixer and just going. I found that for the style we were making, it wasn't a very difficult technical experience, and it was a lot of performance elements involved, a lot of showmanship, and I like that stuff, but I don't love it. And I think that's what started transitioning me away from DJ world into what I'm doing now. Maybe the first thing that guided it was the music itself. So I wrote an album last year that we released called Hourglass. We took a look at it and we said we want to tour, but what is this? Like, what is this tour? It's not dance music, it's not pure electronic music, and it kind of clicked for us that this is a band. And it wasn't anything I was thinking about when I was making it. I just made it, and we assembled a band. This was where things got really tough for me. It went from the comfort and ease of taking a flash drive on an airplane to now having musicians on stage, all kinds of technology I've never been acquainted with before. I'm singing for the very first time in my life in front of other people. This is not anything I was doing before. And trying to glue all that together into a cohesive experience for a fan that's gonna make them feel good and make them feel what I was trying to get them to feel making the record in the studio. And that's the story of how I went from French horn to DJ to what we're doing now with the Breathe tour. My guitarist Tyler, he's been with me now for 2 years, and he's probably the only musician that I've had outside of just being in a room by myself. The interesting thing about the way I produce is that it's still quite in the box, even though I love organic elements. So I'll play the guitars myself. I'm not a good guitarist, but I can chop it all together. I was never a singer, but I started to figure out how to chop that together until I was good and confident enough to actually get great vocal performances. And then Tyler would come in and just layer on all sorts of atmospheric sounds. So that's how the record got made, and it was very much, in the box, plugins, all the kind of stuff that I was familiar with from EDM and everything. Then we had to make it work for a band, and unfortunately what I discovered is that every single song required a different combination of the band, the tracks, the playthrough, all that stuff. I've been really happy to have a great drummer with us on tour, Keith. Drums are maybe the toughest thing about this. Electronic music drums are so compressed. They're either quantized exactly or offset in such a precise way. They're just totally taking up a proper space in the mix that you need. And hitting an acoustic drum set doesn't do the same thing. There's no perfect velocity that's mathematically exact on every single hit. So I thought, okay, we're just gonna send all of his hits to triggers. He's gonna be triggering everything, it's gonna be great. Well, then we show up and all of a sudden it doesn't feel right. Having a guy slam on a dinky little pad and just bing every single time. It didn't quite feel good. So the next solution was these triggers that I know Keith showed you guys earlier, which is that he has these sensors on the drums where he can actually double with an acoustic set, so he can actually get the feeling of slamming a snare and hitting a kick really hard while also triggering, some of the samples that I use in the tracks themselves. What we discovered is that sometimes mute all the tracks in the production, Keith covers it all. Sometimes he doubles it, and sometimes he's just, I think there's only 2 tracks where he's purely replacing the electronics. A lot of it is the triggers. I just loved it. We didn't have that on the last tour, and now it's really made a lot more sense in terms of getting the right sound. So with that, then there comes Tyler. What do we give Tyler to do? He's on guitar. Thankfully, a lot of my music has guitars natively in it because I love it and I record it just myself. So he'll cover all that stuff, and then just fill up the atmosphere field with crazy sounds. And I love that kind of stuff. I really love Icelandic bands and the way they deal with texture, and Tyler just is a master at it. So I kind of let him run wild. I think the first thing I learned is that I have no clue what I'm doing. These guys are all professionals. Let them suggest things and then I'll react to it, and that's kind of been the secret. And we have a new weapon now with Gabe on violin and synth bass, and the potential there opens up dramatically. He's got a 5-string violin, and he's got a loop pedal that can do all kinds of stuff I never really had thought about or knew. And you know, we're 5 shows in now, and we're already retooling parts of the set and interludes to include him more, because what I notice is when I take a violin out to an electronic audience, they freak out. They love seeing a violin. So let's give him more of it, you know? And it's been really great. I mean, I think the first tour, it was a lot of just detail work, and right off the bat with this tour, I knew what I wanted things to sound like, and we've got a great team, so I've been really happy with how everything's sounding so far. So this is the Roland FA-06. I got this baby for the first tour, and one of the really appealing things was that it has an onboard sampler. So I was running all of our tracks through this guy originally, and I'll just load up our tour here, and it's got a sequencer section where you can actually upload audio files into it. I was really nervous about bringing a laptop on stage. Any chance there is for things to break or things to, you know, freeze or whatever, it just kind of gives me nightmares. That's probably what keeps me up at night the most, is just things malfunctioning on stage. And so I love the stability that this gave me, was being able to load it, just trigger it from here. It's sending a click through the sub out so that we're all getting click. John's mixing it from front of house, and that was great for tour 1. Tour 2, John, you know, kind of nudged me and said, I'd love to have some flexibility and control over what I'm mixing. You know, I'd love to have the low end separate, drum separate, background vocals. So we're running off a Somatic LP16 this time, which is just basically this with 16 outs, so I can send him a whole bunch of different things. We're sending time code to the lights now, so we can coordinate with lights, which has been such a huge improvement on the first tour. And then, so I'm abandoning this guy for this tour, but what I liked about this is that I design all the sounds I need for it. I'm just going to the studio set here. So I'm designing the pianos I need for a lot of the songs. I've got a couple synths. I'm a piano guy, so most of the stuff you're gonna hear on my records is piano, so I double that while the rest of the band plays everything else. And then just a couple sound-alike synths. In the future, I want to get more analog synths so that I'm actually putting those in my record and bringing those synths out. I saw James Blake recently, and he's such a whiz at that, and it's really nice to hear the exact same instrument that creates it. For now, I just kind of go with sound-alike stuff, since I don't think the identity of my music is as synth-heavy as other people, but hopefully I'll change that at a certain point. The other device here I have is this TC Helicon Voice Tone 1. I've got a couple features on here that I like. It's very simple, which is also one reason that I have it. So I have kind of a formant tool. They call it Gender on here. There's a couple moments in the set where I'm doing what I would consider like a monster voice. There's like a chipmunk voice too that I don't use, but it's kind of cool to have that sort of effect. And then I've got some tuning on here whenever I need it, so that just helps me feel comfortable. Sometimes I'm at venues and I can't hear myself very well, and as a classical musician, intonation drives me bonkers, and I can't enjoy myself if I have no idea where my intonation is. So this gives me some security too, if I'm just in a space that I just don't feel great, or if my voice is dying on a night, and that makes me feel comfortable and more engaged, and I'm able to be in the moment. So it's a couple ways that the tech has really helped me feel good about transitioning from DJing to singing. Again, I'm Alex from Mako. Thanks for hanging out with me, talking about gear, and joining me on the Breathe tour. I'm really excited to be here. Check out our new single called Breathe. All of our socials are We Are Mako. Hit us up, hit me up. Let me know if you're on the tour and if you've seen it, what you think. It's a pleasure to be doing this, and thanks so much. I'll see you guys soon.